Melbourne, the Formula One season gets underway here on BBC One and for the first time in high definition on BBC One HD with qualifying for the Australian Grand Prix.
It had it all. It was the greatest ride, the thrill of a lifetime. Round and round it went, but where it stopped, who knew? Who knew who would claim the prize? It had it all. It had charging, snorting bulls in the ring, tamed only by those two who rode them.
Sebastian Vettel wins!
Fantastic, Mark.
1-2 for Red Bull.
Absolutely awesome.
Unable sometimes to tame themselves, unable to control their own beasts within.
Oh dear, they've come together! Webber and Vettel have come together. What was going on there?
So quickly went the ride that friends, rivals, teammates blurred into one. And that way madness lies. It had intrigue and infighting. It had a prancing horse and a rider asked to take a fall.
Fernando is faster than you.
It had those who simply would not lie down when told that they were not the chosen one.
Not bad for number 2 driver.
It had new and old, new faces, new machines, new blood, and an echo of the past. A name, a memory. It had the spectre at the feast, a falling god now railing against his own mortality and risking that of others.
Schumacher's almost put him in the wall. Schumacher almost put him in the wall there.
Everyone's time must pass. It had the sunshine, of course, and it had the storms when the cars danced and only he who dared won. It had moments where the world turned upside down and the people held their breath and then exhaled to breathe again. It had it all, this ride, this carousel of glamour and of glory.
Red Bull, the Constructors' Champions for the first time.
It had a new world champion.
Sebastian Vettel, you are the world champion! The world champion, well done, enjoy it!
Yes! Oh, thank you, boys. Unbelievable.
And what do you do when this ride is over? The greatest ride, the thrill of a lifetime. You take your seat. You get back on. And this ride begins once more.
It feels a bit like following the Beatles onto the stage, doesn't it? Just how do you live up to what's gone before you? Well, with 5 world champions on the grid and the teams having worked feverishly over the winter, no doubt Formula One will once again do its best to reward you for your dedication. And talking of dedication, thank you so much for being out of bed at 5 o'clock in the morning to join the three of us, myself, David Coulthard and Eddie Jordan. A good crowd's turned out for you boys today.
Well, indeed, actually. I thought it was for you, Jake. You're very popular down under.
No, not quite. Not as popular as this boy. A long time in Formula One for you, EJ. What were you doing 20 years ago, right about now?
Well, I was... I don't know where I was. The head was miles away. It was my first ever Grand Prix, and you know, that was heady days. Of course, it's 20 years ago. It lives with you, and you can see what goes on with all these new teams and stuff. And you know, it's something that I treasure, and I'll never forget it.
And what is it about this sport, David? You can't leave it behind. You love it so much. You want to commentate on it as well as present about it beforehand. Eddie can't leave it alone. What is it about Formula One that gets under the skin of these racing people?
Well, I think that ultimately we all start as fans. You know, you're not born into being a driver or born into being a team owner. you know, I grew up watching Formula One, and for whatever reason, you know, found it intriguing and amazing to drive the technology of the sport, but also the human element. And you know, it's an addictive thing, so I'm just continuing that journey.
Well, as David said, everybody starts out as fans, and the fans are here in their droves once again this weekend. And just like in 1996, when Martin Brundle decided the best thing to do with his Jordan car was to leave it upside down in the gravel trap, Melbourne and Albert Park is the setting for the first race of the season. A public park 51 weeks of the year. This weekend, parking is the last thing the drivers want to do. A decent start after a winter of work is on the agenda. And as ever, the drivers have turned up. They've got their smiles on their faces. They're being rather civil to each other at the moment. But quite how long will that last, I wonder. The fans are here. The drivers are here. We're all geared up for the 2011 Formula One season. So Melbourne is the starting point. They'll get a good view of the action today, and the action will take us right around the world. India, new frontiers. However, we do remain uncertain about the fate of the Bahrain Grand Prix. Clearly, the Kingdom have bigger things to concern them currently, and F1 chiefs have given them until May before taking a decision. Well, I think we should get the show on the road by having a look at the World Champions garage, don't you? Go on, Pete. Push past us, have a look at what's going on in there, because in Formula One, people quite simply don't stand still. If you stand still, pretty quickly you're going backwards, and Sebastian knows that he can't afford to take much of a breather, because just, I suppose, what feels like a couple of minutes since he won the title in Abu Dhabi, he's here to defend it against these boys.
Red Bull arrive in Australia as Constructors' Champions, and with newly crowned World Champion Sebastian Vettel back behind the wheel. His 10 pole positions and 5 victories helped him to become the youngest ever champion. Rival and teammate once more is Mark Webber, who narrowly lost out in the championship despite bagging more pole positions and race wins last season than he had done in his entire career. A hugely dominant pairing who battled publicly and on the track. Pre-season testing has shown once again they look the team to beat in 2011.
Lewis Hamilton leads an all-British lineup at McLaren for the second year in succession. Now 26 years old, Hamilton was in the hunt for last year's championship up until the final round, but he hasn't won a race since the Belgian Grand Prix last August. 31-year-old Jenson Button joins Hamilton as equal team leader, but testing hasn't gone well for either of them. McLaren have brought some new parts for this race though, so while the car is not as good as they'd like, it's not as bad as they feared.
Ferrari will have learned from their mistakes after a badly timed pit stop cost Fernando Alonso the title in the last race of the season. The Spaniard is desperate for his third championship and proved last year that he is number one at Ferrari. Felipe Massa enters his 6th season with the team and doesn't want to be Alonso's wingman, but he'll have to improve his performances to convince the team he deserves the chance to win a race, let alone a title.
Michael Schumacher finished last year as the lower scoring Mercedes, but takes the higher ranking number 7 because he's superstitious about even numbers. Now 42 years old, he's targeting at least one win this season. The last person to win a race at that age was Jack Brabham in 1970. Nico Rosberg scored 3 podiums for Mercedes last season, but expected more after the team had won the championship as Brawn Grand Prix the year before. An improved car and a motivated Rosberg could yet produce wins in 2011.
He'll be hoping it does, and we'll be speaking with Michael Schumacher and Nico Rosberg very shortly. Make sure you stay with us. Plenty of build-up ahead of the first part of qualifying. But how do you make the fastest car in Formula One even faster? The RB6 has become the RB7, and David Coulthard's in the garage to explain. David.
Well, indeed. Here you can see some novel way of getting the suspension all together there, standing on the axles. But new regulations for this year. You can see the adjustable rear wing there, the DRS as it's called. That's obviously one area that you can exploit to improve the speed of the car. Another area is we have KERS returning, the energy recovery system that's hidden away underneath the car. And then obviously down here at the pointy end, we're missing the nose right now at this time, but that's the first point of contact with the air, and that's the area that Adrian Newey and his team would have started in trying to make this car quicker than last year's.
Very nice. Now, as the engines start to fire up ahead of the first part of qualifying, let's take a walk across the front of McLaren here. Red Bull have said that this is their greatest ever pre-season, Eddie. Is perhaps keeping the two drivers happy going to be their biggest challenge this year, do you think?
Well, they certainly have got the technology in the car. The car looks absolutely superb, not just in the pre-season testing, but actually since they've come here. So they're the ones to try and knock off the pedestal, and only something like in-house fighting or reliability is going to dampen their season.
If you thought it was nice and busy outside the Red Bull garage, take a look at this. The fans have pushed forwards, plenty of people interested in what Lewis and Jenson will be doing this year, and lots of photos being taken as well. And the two players, they came into this race pretty worried about the state of their car. However, after free practice, they even started smiling.
I'm very happy with how hard the guys have worked and what they've brought to this race, because in testing it was looking pretty tough for us, and they've worked so hard, and they've brought something here that's good. We don't know how good yet, but I'm very happy with the step we've made.
The guys at the factory have done a fantastic job. They've gone in the car this morning, and of course it's a different track, it's different conditions, and so difficult to say how much better it felt compared to the last time I drove it, but definitely do have more downforce, which is always a positive, and it's something we're always asking for. So, but initially, the initial feeling is that we're quick.
Well, let's head from McLaren down to Ferrari. And while we walk, talk about Lewis Hamilton. Interesting that he decided this weekend to say that he's in this sport for multiple titles, not just one. That puts a nice bit of pressure on the team early doors, doesn't it?
Well, I don't think McLaren need any pressure from Lewis. You know, they exist to design winning Grand Prix cars and try and win championships. But I think it's just a statement of intent, nonetheless. You know, he's also declared that the rumours of him looking at other teams to find success are not true. He's committed to McLaren for the long term.
And as for Ferrari, Eddie, they've taken a couple of famous faces in terms of the behind-the-scenes action from up and down the pit lane. I suppose what they're thinking is, if you can't beat them, poach them.
Well, they had a big problem last year. Alonso should have been the champion this year. That didn't happen. When you look at behind the scenes, strategically they made a couple of howlers, really big, basic errors, and they've tried to change that by bringing in two very experienced guys to change that all around and make it better for them.
Okay, well, we've spoken there about three of the fast teams. There are four, of course. Let's not forget Mercedes. And in 1955, their end-of-year report would have read best in the class. However, last year it would have read could do better. Ross Brawn and Michael Schumacher, both keen to add to their multiple titles in Formula One. Nico Rosberg, well, he just wants his first win.
The Silver Arrows arrived back in Formula One, bringing with them the most successful driver of all time. But not even the combination of Mercedes and Michael Schumacher was enough, and it was young teammate Nico Rosberg who put them back on the podium. Disappointment summed up the start of testing in 2011, with paddock gossip claiming Mercedes were struggling. But by the final test, the turnaround was obvious.
Ross said to us in the beginning, he was like, guys, it's going to be a very slow start because we're going to work on reliability and everything, and then we're going to put on performance in the end.
There was a lot of work to do over the winter, a lot of work to do over those tests, but none of it was different to what we'd planned.
We had a good preparation for the car. That first priority obviously was the reliability.
You start to think, okay, well, can you just please put on some performance now?
The car had been predicted to be exactly where it was in Barcelona, and that's the positive.
Our weakness last year, that during the year our development was lacking a bit.
Last year we had some trouble with predicting where we wanted to be and achieving this.
Now when they say we're going to put 6/10 of performance on the car with this and this bit, whereas last year often that wouldn't then be the case because there would be various problems and things like that, and this winter it went on the car and it was the 6/10.
It's exciting for us to follow our predictions and actually match them and put them into lap times.
We know from the very first race how we're going to work with the drivers. I know Michael very well, but of course the team didn't.
This year compared to last year, it's a big difference because I just arrive and I know immediately who is responsible for what.
Every year we want to do better, so ultimately we can win the championship. Whether we win it in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, I don't know, but we must go forward every year.
Will we win the championship? I don't think so. I don't think we're yet prepared for fighting the championship. If everything goes very well, we might win a race.
The ultimate goal needs to be that we need to be the quickest car and just win races out of pure pace.
There is good possibilities that we run onto the podium, and that's what I'm expecting and hope for, even at the first race.
Well, a nice little mixture of optimism and pessimism there. Pessimism because Michael says he thinks the title's too much already, Ross. And optimism because he's saying that perhaps a podium this weekend is the best way to start. What do you think your aspiration should be for the first race of 2011?
Perhaps that's a good summary from Michael. I think we've got a fundamentally good car. We're having a little bit of a job putting everything together. And this morning was very messy again in terms of our session, with little glimpses of what the car can do, but too many technical problems this morning to really realise the best from it.
When you say putting everything together, do you literally mean putting everything together? Because the car is behind us at the moment. We were hoping to walk up and down and have a good look at it, but it's in pieces. You worried about today? Is this going to affect performance today, do you think? What are the issues?
Well, there's odd new systems on the car we've got this year, and they're not all working together at the same time. Right. And when they do, the car seems pretty reasonable. But again, we had some problems this morning. We've got curves on the car, we've got other systems on the car, and just getting everything to function well at the same time.
We know we've got the new boost button returning. Kurz is back in Formula One. We can see the flap at the back of your rear wing, which will reduce drag down the straights. Which of these have been the hardest thing to incorporate in the car, do you think?
Probably for us, Kurz as a team. We've obviously got Mercedes engines have a lot of experience with Kurz, but we as a team, it's our first year with Kurz. We didn't do it in 2009, and that's probably perhaps providing the greatest challenge in terms of keeping the systems running consistently.
Okay, and a little bit of looking into the future. What can we expect from you in qualifying? What would you be satisfied with today?
Well, we need to be top 6, I think, if we're reasonably happy. Red Bulls are very impressive this morning, and we've got to think about how we get closer to that. But I think there's a gaggle of teams behind that whoever does the best job is going to be the next team up. But there's a group. There's Ferrari, there's McLaren, there's ourselves. Renault looked pretty good this morning. So I think whoever of those teams does the best job this afternoon, they'll be the next group.
Yeah, good luck chasing those Red Bulls. You've had enough of that by now, haven't you?
Yes.
Thanks very much. Nice to chat. Have a good one this weekend. Interesting. Ross has said a few times in the last season or two the Red Bulls are looking fast, and that's what everybody's chasing at the moment. And it seems, Eddie, that particularly Mercedes, they've maybe had a few issues over the winter. I spoke to Ross at the start of the month. He said they need a second. Even now, half an hour, 45 minutes before the first qualifying session, they're sticking the car together and rebuilding it. What's going on, do you think?
Well, they're behind Red Bull. It's as simple as that. And, desperate people do desperate things. And I'm not saying that Ross is desperate, but he is scratching his head because this car, as indeed all the other cars except Red Bull, they're all floundering. And there's lots of things in there, like Kurz, which he's alluded to. It's outside the control of the team, and that's always a problem. And that's why he doesn't like it.
Ferrari are firing up, so let's just walk over here and make our way away from the engines very slightly, David. Michael Schumacher, we all enjoyed talking about him last year. One man enjoyed saying that he thought Michael was about to leave Formula One, but he's still here. Are you surprised he's still here?
Well, no, actually, and what I'd like to say is I think it's really refreshing how open Ross is in explaining where they think they are. And also, going back to the VT with Michael, he was very open about what their goals are. So I think there's an inner calm. It's almost like they know they've got something good coming in the future. It's going to be interesting to watch how they develop.
Okay, we'll see what happens. So just over half an hour to go then until Q1. A lot of work to do in the Mercedes garage before then, but there's one Italian outfit that everybody is talking about. They've got a rich pedigree in racing. They've covered more miles in testing than anybody else, and this year we guarantee you that they're going to win a race. And we're not talking about Ferrari.
No matter the driver or the car, only 4 small patches of rubber touch the track. Nelson Piquet wins for Pirelli. After 20 years off the calendar, Pirelli are back in Formula One. Pirelli's last victory was the 1991 Canadian Grand Prix with Nelson Piquet at the wheel of the Benetton. Michael Schumacher also raced the Pirelli-shod Benetton that season, and 2 decades later, he's back burning Italian rubber.
This year, straight away with the tyres, I feel much more home, and I understand immediately what and how I have to treat it.
The Pirelli approach is a fast tyre, but it drops off quickly. And that's going to lead actually to some pretty exciting racing.
Basically what you need is grip, so otherwise the car starts to slide. They seem to drop off very, very quickly.
Will you easily overtake? No, I don't think so. But it may put you in the position to do so.
Pirelli were asked to deliver a less durable tyre with a greater difference between rubber compounds. The goal was more pit stops and less predictable races. This has very much been achieved. We've also seen that if drivers lock brakes, a blister and flat spot quickly wrecks the tyre. The high wear rate also generates lots of discarded rubber just off the racing line and can block critical cooling ducts. Hang on to your seats, it's going to be a wild ride.
And the wild ride starts very shortly for Paul Hembury. Paul, how are you feeling at Pirelli? Are you nervous? Are you excited?
Well, I guess excited now, to be honest. I mean, 8 months of testing, and now we're really here, finally. It's been a short period of time, but a long period of time if you look at it two ways. So, yeah, we just want to get on with it.
Sure. Now, everybody is talking about tyres in Formula One. As Eddie often reminds us, tyres aren't what's glamorous about motorsport, but actually they could have a huge impact in the way that the sport unfolds this year. Just explain to us what the teams wanted, what the sport wanted, and what you've delivered and the effect you think it'll have.
Well, I guess that the input really was to try and create a Canada type scenario of what was seen last year, where there was a lot of excitement with tyres being changed, a lot of strategy being involved. So the input for us was a 2 to 3 stop strategy, and to do that's quite difficult. You know, it sounds easy, but it's not, because the easy thing to do is over-exaggerate, do a tyre that lasts for a race and 10 laps, then you don't have to worry about it. But try and get something that lasts for 15 laps for a soft compound, or 25-30 for a hard, is actually very difficult.
Okay, well, Eddie, I know that you're eager to see how these tyres work out. Let's just sort of do a little show and tell and come around by the tyres just here. And come just next to Eddie and I, Paul, and we'll talk about how it works. Now, we've got here the hard tyre, the soft tyre, and a tyre that's been used out on track. How have they been operating this weekend?
Very good. I mean, the soft, we've been looking at about 15 laps in terms of use, and the hard, depending on the team and the driver, between 20 and 25. About a second difference in terms of peak performance, so we're quite pleased with that. That should give us the racing that we're looking for.
Okay.
Paul, I've got to ask you this, because you know, you've been thrown in at the deep end here, and you made the point that you wanted to replicate Canada. But who said that to you? When you got the contract, who came up to you and told you, we want a Canada? Was that the FIA?
No, not the FIA, in fairness. I mean, they write the rules. It's the teams. It was the teams. We had a working group of all the teams, and that's what they wanted. Of course, you know, Mr. E as well, he was very keen to have a show because he wants to sell it well. And between them, they said, if you can do that, then we're going to enjoy it.
Got to ask you this, did you look into that, or did you happen to technology get to where you are now?
We had to be honest, it was difficult because we were a bit too conservative in our initial testing, and we would have been doing one tyre change maximum on a race. So we had to rethink our strategy and try and think of a way that would create the differences that we needed. You know, 1 second peak difference, plus, as I say, a very different usage between the two tyres.
Okay, let's just talk how this is going to work this weekend. Well, you can see Pirelli is written in silver on the side of this tyre. That denotes that this tyre is a hard tyre. And then we've got the yellow markings here. That means that this is a soft tyre. Good luck to the commentators seeing this at high speed. And then finally, we've got a tyre that's been used by one of the teams already this weekend. And Paul, we've seen tyres coming in much worse condition than this. Have you picked this one because it looks particularly good for us?
Well, you can imagine teams are actually trying to find the limits. You know, they're trying to find at what point they're going to be making their changes. Huge differences, of course, in driving style. Car setup, you got 12 different chassis, 24 drivers. All of those have an effect on the wear.
Okay, one final question. Will it make Formula One more exciting?
I hope so. That's what we're here for.
All right. I'm not sure we can take it because it was good last year. Thank you very much, Paul. Good luck this weekend, and we'll let you get back to work and start studying the lap times and the degradation and all the other things that you'll be getting up to. Good luck.
Thanks very much.
All right, well done. And while Paul makes his way back to try and prepare for his first race as the Pirelli Motorsport boss, here's how you can keep across the BBC's Formula One coverage coming your way. There are plenty of things that are the same, and one thing that's very, very different indeed. Of course, you can press the red button. Driver Tracker is available for you during qualifying this weekend. So make sure you have a look at that today, and then you can jump onto the BBC Sport website. There's some videos on there for you available as well. And you can also keep across anything from the past 7 days with the BBC iPlayer. Anything that's happened, it'll be available there for the next week. And it's all available in glorious high definition. Therefore, if Mark Webber drives out of his skin today, you can see it in HD, and he'll be hoping that's exactly what he does. Well, welcome home. Not been the happiest of hunting grounds for you, but are you ready to put that behind you today?
I hope so, mate. Yeah, we want to obviously put it up towards the front of the grid there somewhere. We don't think everyone was showing their true colours in the first session this morning, so see what Fernando does. McLaren aren't hanging around as well. Seb certainly not. So personally myself, yeah, want to be on the front row.
And how have you picked yourself up from a pretty devastating final couple of races from last year? How do you press that reset button to go again?
Well, I've certainly been asked a lot about it, so yeah. I need to get
what's the stock answer you've been giving everybody?
We're at the first race of the season, so
yeah.
A lot of talk about the different devices you have at your disposal this year. You've got KERS, you've got the drag reduction system. Just how challenging is that? Is it just the drivers complaining for the sake of it, or is it a problem?
Well, as you and I both know, mate, we've done 3,000 races or categories below this, obviously, where we've had to use one hand a lot to change gears. So we can drive one hand at a time. Not that we're driving one-handed, but obviously it requires a manipulation of your fingers and I suppose your grip on the steering wheel to activate these buttons. So it's possible, but you know, it's just a question of how far we go. Obviously, I don't think we want to be going too far with all these sort of things, because so yeah, I think that you know, we should just focus on driving the cars on the limit. And I mean, a lot of it's good. The rear wing, we'll see how that goes in the racing, but the KERS is virtually invisible for the viewers at home, and obviously for you guys, it's just there for us to all hit the buttons pretty much at the same time. So yeah.
Okay, Mark, plenty of interest from your home Grand Prix, so good luck, go well today, and we'll speak to you maybe after qualifying.
Cheers, Jake.
All right, thank you very much. Off your head. You can take the microphone with you if you like, or you can give it back to us. Good to speak to Mark, and you know, whatever the pressures, and actually a couple of times last season he struggled a bit when there was a lot of scrutiny, whether it was here at home or in Korea or at the final race, but he seemed very relaxed this weekend. What do you think?
I think you've definitely hit the nail on the head there. He looks so much more relaxed than I've seen him in any previous season. I think that what he's doing is reflecting on how close he came, how great he was at a number of the races. Sure. And he knows that, you know, not every driver is going to get it right all the time. So, you know, it's a long season and he's recharged for the year ahead.
Okay, and he needs to be, because of course it's a very long season. Mark's going to be right up at the cutting edge of things. But what about the midfield? Well, there are 4 teams in the midfield who actually might not mind losing a front wing or two as they battle against each other in a competitive, congested part of the track, all of them hoping that they can mix it with the boys at the front.
Renault have brought in Nick Heidfeld as a replacement for the injured Robert Kubica after his serious rallying accident. The German provides temporary stability and development experience to a team who have lost their biggest asset. Russian driver Vitaly Petrov retains his seat and needs a more consistent season if he's to show that he's more than a paid driver. With a cleverly designed car, Renault were expecting big things this season. The question is, can they do it without Kubica?
Williams field an all-South American driver lineup with Brazilian Rubens Barrichello leading the team for a second season. Now on his 306th F1 race, Rubens has taken part in 36% of all Formula One Grand Prix ever. Alongside Barrichello is Venezuelan GP2 champion Pastor Maldonado. The talented 26-year-old also brings welcome funding to the team from Venezuela's state-owned oil company.
Force India missed out on 6th place by just 1 point to Williams and were gutted to do so. Adrian Sutil is in his 5th season in Formula One. Last season he made 45 overtaking manoeuvres, more than any other driver on the grid. New Brit on the block is Paul di Resta, who gets promotion from test driver last year. The Scot carries a big reputation, having beaten Vettel, who was his teammate when he won F3 Euro Series.
Kamui Kobayashi is only in his 2nd full season of F1, but he's now the experienced hand at Sauber. Kobayashi has a reputation as one of the more exciting drivers in F1, thanks to some daring overtaking moves last year. Kobayashi races this weekend, carrying tributes to his countrymen who've suffered from recent events in Japan. Joining Kobayashi is Mexican rookie Sergio Perez. He came 2nd to Maldonado in last year's GP2 championship, and as a member of Ferrari's Young Driver Academy, has been tipped for big things in the future.
Toro Rosso managed just 13 points in total last season. Sebastian Buemi scored 8 of them, making it a disappointing year for the 22-year-old. And for the past 2 years, he's ended the championship in 16th place. Buemi's teammate once again is Jaime Alguersuari, the youngest driver in F1 and still the youngest on the grid. The Spaniard knows that he too will have to up his game, especially in qualifying.
It's going to be busy in the midfield, and as you heard and saw there, right in the heart of it is going to be Paul di Resta, making his Formula One debut in this wonderful Force India car. Now, at the start of the millennium, Paul was racing against and beating the likes of Lewis Hamilton and Sebastian Vettel and picking up titles. However, things didn't quite go according to plan. He left single-seater racing and had to be patient for his chance in Formula One. Now that he's got it, though, everybody wants to talk to him.
Across the UK.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
5 Live Breakfast.
A third British driver joins the former world champions Jenson Button and Lewis Hamilton on the grid this season. 24-year-old Paul di Resta has been signed up by the Force India team and he's here with us now. Good morning.
Good morning.
You're a name I didn't know.
You're obviously in the Formula One paddock last year and amongst everything else that you were doing. But how do you think it's going to feel when you're actually sitting on the grid?
Having been at the tracks last year as well as a test and reserve driver and overlooked everything and been actively involved with the team, I think has given me good experience.
Any problems to report with the car, Paul? Everything seems okay. It pulled a little bit to the left when I...
It's strange because last year, I didn't even get on the grid to even see the cars sat on the grid. I was tucked up in the garage watching from a distance, whereas this year I'm going to be part of that. It's going to be a strange sensation, but one you have to deal with and one that drives me with adrenaline and passion.
I've been joined this morning by Formula One's newest driver, Paul di Resta. Well done on getting the drive. Did you start in karting? Many young drivers do.
I drove a go-kart as young as 3. And then started racing when I was 8. I grew up in a motorsport family and started racing when I was 8 years old, but was involved with go-karts since I was 3, so very young. And just moved up through junior karting into senior karting, then Formula Renault, Formula 3, DTM, and it's been all a great experience, something I've enjoyed. My father especially has put a lot of effort into making this dream happen, and a lot of hard work, a lot of sacrifices in life.
People within motorsport have always known you, but people who maybe just focus on Formula One might not understand why you carry this big reputation really, but if you go back to your Euro F3 days, just explain what happened there. You were in like-for-like cars and you beat the now current world champion.
Yeah, it was a great, Formula 3 Euro Series is probably regarded as the top junior series for young guys to come up. Me and Sebastian were teammates with ASM, then the best team around. We were, great opposition. Thankfully that year I came out on top and won the championship.
What sort of driver are you? Are you a Nigel Mansell, sort of head down, ruthless, or are you a cool, calculated Jenson Button?
I would say I'm probably cool, a bit more chilled. Things don't seem to work me up quite as much as others.
Really nice to meet you. I wish you the very best. I hope to try and catch up with you later on in the season. Yeah, definitely. When you're obviously leading the championship and 6 wins on the trot, that would be nice if you could come back. Hopefully.
Well, it's not just the current world champion Sebastian Vettel that you've raced against. Obviously, Lewis Hamilton was one of your rivals. His father's now your manager.
Yeah, I've grew up with all these guys from a very young age. Lewis I've known since I was 8 years old. We've competed in the same junior formulas and had some great battles. And I've got great respect for these guys and what they've achieved in their sport, and hopefully one day we'll be part of that history.
What would be a successful season in your rookie season in Formula One?
I think the main thing is to enjoy the experience. Regular points finish is the aim. Certainly getting on the podiums at a few Grand Prix would be a great achievement for the team. And again, just building through the year, and then the next winter building again with higher ambitions year by year until you become a Formula One World Championship leading team.
Well, that's the aim, and the journey starts right now outside the Force India garage. Just half an hour to go until qualifying. Be honest with us, how are you feeling?
I'm definitely nervous. It's a big day today. It's an exciting time. It's been quite a hard challenge this weekend, just getting myself up to speed. But some runs have been comfortable, some have been more difficult. But this is when it counts, and we need to up our game a little bit.
And I thought you were going to drive that quad bike into the side of a truck while watching that. Your dad was helping you out getting the quad bike started, and Louis at home watching this. What's he been saying to you this weekend? I bet he can't believe his boys finally made it to Formula One, can he?
Yeah, well, he's put a lot into this journey, getting me to Formula One. A lot of commitment, a lot of dedication. He's sitting back at home, unfortunately can't be here, but with the BBC's coverage, I'm sure he'll be keeping a close eye on what I'm up to.
Well, I've got to ask you this, because young driver in Force India, you're beating already this weekend. Your teammate, who is recognised in this paddock, has been very quick. Is that something that you've targeted? Is that where you want to be in front of him at the weekend?
Well, you can base yourself on your teammate. Obviously, I've just set myself out to try and go as best as possible and do the best job. Qualifying is a different game. I do feel quite comfortable in the car, but I'm just trying to build myself up slowly and maintaining and making sure I'm progressing and not taking too many steps forward in order to trip up too quickly.
What's been the biggest surprise? You've obviously tested these cars before, so you know how to drive them, but coming to your first Grand Prix, what shocked you?
I think just how much goes on. It's just so busy on and off track. You haven't had much time. The tyres are working a bit different again to what we thought that initially they were going to do, and it's just really going through everything. It's amazing how much just putting a little bit of fuel on board changes a car, and then you have to get back into a low fuel run and do it at a quick time. So it's just managing it all, and I think that's where the experience is going to come throughout the Grand Prix this year.
Well, we know it's going to be tough just to make it into Q2 today. We hope the performance is there. We hope that you put in a sterling job, and we're all rooting for you. Good luck. All right, well done. And while Paul gets ready to take his first steps in Formula One, sadly, Robert Kubica is yet to take his first steps since his crash in the Andorran Rally a few weeks ago. A real blow to his team, who clearly built their entire season around Robert Kubica, and a real blow for the fans who love to watch such a talented, dedicated driver.
Formula One driver Robert Kubica has undergone surgery after a high-speed crash in Italy in the Ronde di Andorra Rally.
I called straight away, and it was an hour after, and they said we're not very much worried about his hand, his life.
When the car went off the road and hit a church wall, it took 2 hours for the Formula One driver to be free.
It will take time, and this next 2 or 3 months it will be hard.
The 26-year-old suffered serious injuries to his right hand, arm and leg.
I visited him a few weeks ago. He was doing pretty well, even though considering the accident.
Surgeons are trying to repair the driver's right hand.
I think it will be a while before he will be fully fit
There were
again.
fears his hand would be amputated, but according to his surgeon, Kubica is likely to regain full use, but it could take up to a year.
We all miss him here because he was, a good guy and a very talented driver.
It's a sad prelude to the first race.
He is well, actually. The surgeries went very well. It was long, but it went well, and he started the rehabilitation. He moved. He's now moving out of his room, and he is definitely pushing very hard to get back.
People ask me, but then, it's stupid to do rally and so on. It's the same with me doing the go-kart. I mean, you could have a brake failure and hurt yourself as well. And racing drivers, we always, like the example that I gave where the kids say, you need that adrenaline. You cannot stop. It's almost like the adrenaline comes up, and you top up, and then you don't know what to do anymore. You become a bit of a crazy situation. You need to act, and it was very unfortunate. So we miss him here, and I hope to have him sometime during the season.
It's too early, frankly, and I don't want to give wrong hopes, to anybody, But we have discussed this already between us, and I think reasonably, let's say before the end of the year, yes, he could be back behind the steering wheel.
And wouldn't that be wonderful? We can see the car being prepared for Nick Heidfeld behind us here. Of course, our best wishes remain with Robert Kubica. Wouldn't he love to have got into this car, particularly with the kind of pace that it's shown? Renault have come up with a really revolutionary exhaust system, and at the moment, that's looking like a very fast car indeed. But from a team who looked to have designed something pretty special to some teams who struggled a little bit last year, the new boys in Formula One. Sometimes their fuel tanks weren't big enough. Sometimes they spent all their time pulling over to let others get past. In fact, for some of them, the only time they were really hot was when they were on fire. Well, this year, it's put up or shut up time. No more excuses.
Jarno Trulli is starting his 15th season in Formula One with Team Lotus, a famous name that returns to the sport. Trulli has been known to grow frustrated when things aren't going his way, but he remains one of the fastest drivers in the sport over a single flying lap. Heikki Kovalainen completes the driver lineup at Team Lotus. Kovalainen, like Trulli, is a previous race winner. The car has a Red Bull gearbox and a Renault engine, so expect both drivers to be firmly in the midfield pack.
It was a baptism of fire for the Hispania team last year, and a revolving door of drivers didn't help. They have F1 returnee Narain Karthikeyan back on the grid at the age of 33. His last race was in the Jordan in 2005. Kartikeyan's teammate is the experienced Tony Oliuzzi, who last year drove for Force India and has the unenviable record of crashing more than any other driver in 2010.
Virgin Racing field Timo Glock, who makes it 6 German drivers in Formula One. Glock's experience is valuable for the team. His first race was for Jordan back in 2004. Belgian rookie Jerome D'Ambrosio is alongside. The 2011 Virgin car should be an improvement on 2010 when the team finished last in the championship. Virgin Racing pride themselves on working to one of the smallest operating budgets in Formula One.
It's great just to walk down here before the first qualifying session of the season. In all of these garages, they may be working hard. This may be a sport where science is at the heart of it, but there are hopes and dreams in here. All of these guys thinking, perhaps this car can pick up a pole position today. We'll wait and find out. But last year, believe it or not, we went 249 laps before we had our first overtake of top 6 cars going wheel to wheel. And the stats tell us that last year there was a 6th of the overtaking from 20 years before. Quite simply, not good enough for Formula One. Things have got to change, as Ted Kravitz can now tell us. Things have indeed changed quite a bit.
The first new rule that will have a big effect on the races is the movable rear wing. It's called the DRS, or drag reduction system, because that's how it works. The upper part of the rear wing flips up, reducing drag, making the car go faster in a straight line. Drivers can use it whenever they like in qualifying, but in the race, it's only to be used on the straight, and then only if a driver is within a second of the car in front.
In qualifying, the rear wing, movable rear wing, is just straight performance. It adds quite a lot of lap time and quite a lot of performance to the car. So from a team point of view, you want a rear wing that when you actuate it, it dumps absolutely as much drag as possible. Whether or not it works in the race, we all hope that from an overtaking point of view, we hope that we've done the right thing. But from just a straightforward, selfish team point of view, maximising that drag reduction in qualifying is improved lap time.
There are also a couple of changes to the powertrain. Gearboxes now have to last 5 races instead of 4, and the Kinetic Energy Recovery System, or KERS, is back in Formula One after a year's absence. Like a hybrid car, KERS uses braking energy and turns it into a power boost on acceleration.
When you speak about KERS, you speak about a gain of 2 to 3 tenths. So it is not really big when you think about the thing you need to put in the car. I think it's good for the future of Formula One to try to bring some new stuff in it, but we'll have to see in the races with everyone having it what's happening.
If it fails, of course, it's a disadvantage. Not only have you no longer got the boost on the straight, you're carrying around a bunch of extra kit and clobber for no reason, and rather unpleasantly, it also does mess up rather the ability of the car to brake nicely, because the front to rear braking ratio changes quite a lot. Because the KERS acts on the rear wheels, it takes braking energy away on the rear, and if it suddenly isn't there, then the brake balance all gets screwed up.
Changes to the sporting regulations include a return of the 107% rule, which essentially means that cars that are too slow in qualifying won't be allowed to race, and team orders are now legal, so drivers' positions can be changed by orders from the pit wall during the Grand Prix.
There's no more ban on team orders. Is that useful for Ferrari?
Useful for everyone.
And finally, the days of mechanics pulling all-nighters are at an end. All team members must leave the confines of the circuit for a minimum of 6 hours every night. But if something does go badly wrong, teams do have 4 exemptions to this curfew over the course of the season.
So I suppose the first question should be, do we need to have these rule changes? We've seen 3 fantastic seasons on the spin now. What do you think?
I think it goes part and parcel with Formula One. The rules have always changed. Part of the drive is, of course, to bring in new technologies which are going to be relevant to the road in the future, and the other part is to try and control the speeds of the cars, because if you just left the designers to their own devices, the lap times, they would almost be undrivable, I guess, with the G-forces they pull.
Now, I'm sure we can remember a few vintage David Coulthard overtakes from his career, and the important thing about Formula One isn't to suddenly make overtaking easy, is it? It still needs to be an art form, overtaking other drivers, not just pressing a button and being in the right place.
Well, Mark Webber has already spoken about the complexity of the cockpit at the moment, and we're getting into difficulties. I'd rather see less buttons and more natural talent. Of course, we'd all like to see that, but KERS is there. I'm not sure why it's there, but anyway, there is lots of good things. This looks like going to be a good season. I think the tyres have been a real positive, and let's hope, fingers crossed, that there will be lots of excitement and lots of overtaking.
Well, for me, I see it like this. If you really wanted to have completely fair racing, you would have everyone in the same car, of course, but you've got such a big difference between the performance of each of the cars and then the technology that you have there. It's down to the individuals to exploit that to the maximum.
And interestingly, this season of all seasons, just as they bring in all of these little systems to try and make overtaking easier, we end up with tyres that could overshadow everything. It doesn't matter. You could have 100 drag reduction systems on your car, but if your tyres are useless and the guy behind you's got new fresh rubber on, there's no defending your position, there's no overtaking either.
Yeah, but that's always been the case. If you go back to the formation of the World Championship, there would be tyres, the treads ripping off, and when we had turbocharged cars, it was just push a button and overtake. So there's always been things where the driver relies on the tools that he has at his disposal. A tyre is just another part of that. So strategy becomes a much bigger part of the racing this season.
Okay, well, 15 minutes now until the first part of qualifying. Keep your eyes peeled for drivers using their movable rear wing, or the DRS as we're calling it. They can use it as many times as they like during their qualifying flying lap to try and get the best out of the car, and the curves button as well. I wouldn't want to be the commentator. Would you, trying to keep across all that, Eddie?
Well, there's just so much new going on, so we want to wish him luck apart from anything else. He's going into the Lions Den. So good luck to yourself and Martin. But separately, the drivers themselves, this is all new territory. It's new to the teams. KERS is a big problem because it's the one thing that's outside the control of the teams, because there's new batteries, there's new systems, and as a team principal or an ex-team principal, these are things that you'd rather not have, things outside your own control.
Well, I jest, of course. You and Martin are going to do a sterling job. Perhaps you're maybe best at talking about racing now rather than doing it after your performance this morning. What happened here?
I hope you don't have it on there.
Oh, we do. Well, don't you worry.
Would you like my racing driver excuse?
Yeah, go on.
I ran out of talent. My expectations of the downforce on that thing was clearly too much.
Eddie,
the good thing is, the marshals brought me back into it.
I'm so impressed.
David,
and there he was giving Paul de Resta driving lessons and technique.
It's all about entertaining the crowd. There was a lot of people sitting there from first thing in this morning, so they needed some entertainment. Believe it or not, the marshals got me back in the car. I rejoined the race, and okay, there was only 4 cars, but of course I finished 4th.
Well, listen, it was a sterling effort. It's wonderful to have you driving. It's wonderful to have you in the commentary box. Looking forward to it. Nervous, excited. We've spoken to Paul about his debut. How are you feeling?
Well, nervous, of course, because it's a big responsibility, but looking forward to it because we've got the first qualifying session of 2011. I don't know what's going to play out, but I'm going to enjoy talking about it.
Right, here goes your big moment then. David, see you later.
Thank you very much.
Wish you well, man.
Enjoy.
Are we going to miss him, aren't we?
I'm missing him already. He's only just gone out of sight. But, David and Martin, 2 very experienced guys. They will do a remarkable job. Yes, of course, they're nervous. Everybody is nervous. It's the first race of the season. Aren't you nervous? I'm nervous. Everybody has to be. That's the adrenaline. We need that to operate properly.
Well, strangely, one man who hasn't looked nervous at all so far this weekend is Jenson Button, and David decided to join him for a little walk around the track, which the drivers tend to do on a Thursday here. And just to give you some idea of the fact that this job, being a racing driver, isn't always glamorous, it was late, it was dark, it was incredibly windy, but DC was there all the same.
Jenson, it's cold enough for you?
Yeah.
Oh, what's it? Sorry, mate. Jacket. Right. Thanks for letting us join you on your track walk. It's all right, mate. Rather worrying thing is... It gets dark. Yeah, it's 7:10. Technically, if you had a safety car or wet race, this is how it could be. Yeah, I know. Scary, isn't it? One thing we do have in common, both won this Grand Prix twice. Oh, really? You won it twice, haven't you? Yeah. The last 2 years. Why were you looking at me as if I hadn't? No, I didn't. I remember, I can't remember you doing it twice. Oh, yeah. Well, the first time... No, I'm not saying I don't believe you, but... Right, what is it going to take for you to do a hat-trick here? Grey skies, we've had a lot of rain, bad weather. Well, I think we need a bit of everything. Yeah. We've got new tyres, that could play a big part. We've got the rear wing, we've got many different things that could play a big part here. So, yeah, never say never. You've been in pole here twice. What's the key on this track? We're down here on the entry to turn 1. Yeah. Well, the start, since 2002, every pole man has got into the first corner first. Can you remember that?
No, I never had pole here.
Oh, you didn't? Okay. But this is, if you're on pole, this is a pretty good circuit for you because it is easy to get into turn 1 first. But if you're not on pole, this is pretty mad, this corner. Last year I started 4th, came together with Fernando Alonso, pushed him off the circuit. Sorry about that, Fernando. Went on to win the race. Was it here when you had to give the win up?
Yes, 98.
Coulthard slowing down. And Hakkinen takes the lead. Now that looked like a planned move to me, Martin.
So you won it 3 times, really?
Yeah, exactly. We'll see you down there. So you've stopped us down here at turn 3.
Yep, 183 miles an hour into here. This is second gear corner. Yeah, and it's very, very bumpy on the entrance, so it's tricky to get your braking right, locking fronts, locking rears, and you can really do a lot of damage to the tyres. And with these Pirelli tyres, if you flat spot a tyre, it screws it. That's it. You know, if you flat spot it, it's gone. So you'll be so careful.
So any small under rotation
is a massive issue. Hello.
Competition there. Current world champion.
You all right, fella?
Ex-world champion.
Only because you saw the TV camera, he came and said hello. You all right, man?
I think that's Blackhawk. It's around 27.5K.
I have. I'm good, man. I'm good.
So that's some world champion love, is it?
Who was that, anyway?
Yeah, I think
was that a free driver or something?
No.
Oh, was that Sebastian Vettel?
That's it, yeah.
Oh my God, it was, wasn't it?
He's a big fan of yours.
He seems it, yeah. This is actually where I went off the road last year when I put slick tyres on.
I remember saying that I thought you'd gone too early to the tyres, and then you went off, and then you went on and won the race.
Yeah, I know. So going off here actually won me the race because it made all the people on the pit walls think it's too wet for slicks. And it wasn't. It was just this corner was really wet and I made a bit of a boo-boo. Which corner is this, Dave?
This is 11 and 12.
Okay. For a road circuit, which it basically is, you know, we're driving through a park, this is a pretty quick section. You wouldn't normally have a corner quite like this. So it's a 5th gear corner, so you're down 2 gears from 7th. Little lift on the left, and you should be, if you've got the car set up right, flat from here all the way through that right-hander.
That might explain why I was never on pole here, because I was never flat through that right-hander.
Really?
You go flat through that right-hander.
Well, hopefully we will. The last couple of years I have.
So when we see on board from your qualifying lap,
I'm not lifting. Especially if you're on TV giving it, oh look, he said he wouldn't lift and there it is.
I think before we run out of light,
and it starts raining.
It starts to rain, we wish you luck for the weekend.
Thank you very much, man. Thank you. Cheers.
He's ripped. See these triathletes.
See, Martin hates this sort of stuff, but you love it. You always have.
What's that, a cuddle?
Little man hug.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember the days when... Right, we'll stop there.
Take me back.
Take me home.
Oh, brilliant. Probably best to leave it there, to be honest. Incredibly relaxed, Jenson. That almost seems to be his mantra in Formula One, doesn't it? You know, he lets all the others lose their head around him while he just stays calm in the middle.
That's why he was such a great world champion. But I think I just should say something at this point. He later admitted to David Coulthard that he never was flat through that corner. So that saves the blushes of David Coulthard, who was completely aghast by what he had heard. But actually, they came clean in the end.
And we can see people enjoying Albert Park on this, well, I wouldn't say sunny Saturday morning. It's rather blustery, actually. It's a good day for sailing, not necessarily a good day for sunbathing. Talking of Jenson, though, is he so relaxed because in many ways, when that was filmed on Thursday night, he came into this weekend with no pressure on him because actually the team have been struggling so much in pre-season, McLaren?
Probably nearly the worst McLaren ever to hit the track. And remember, this would have been Pat Fry's car, who of course now is with Ferrari, and the new group of people who have been put together. They've done a remarkable job, because you're absolutely right. Jenson, when he was speaking there, probably had just midfield at best planned for this weekend, and now he's right up there. But Lewis and himself, they finished, I think, 3rd and 4th in the qualifying this morning. Who knows what's going to happen? They might give Red Bulls a run here.
You're totally right. Everybody, of course, still chasing Red Bull, which isn't a mean feat because Red Bull are super fast. Let's hear from their team principal, Christian Horner.
Well, Christian, just making your way to the pit wall. Can you do qualifying 1 on the hard tyre? We heard from Pirelli that it's a second difference between the hard and the soft.
Yeah, it looks about a second difference. So you know, we'll do a run on the hard and see how we go. We'll leave ourselves enough time if we need to do a second one, but it's very much first qualifying of the year. We don't want to make sure we miss anything, so we'll do a run and then evaluate the situation after that.
Has Vettel got the edge on Webber here?
Seb had a really strong final practice. Mark's run on the soft tyre was compromised by traffic, so they were always pretty close, so I'm expecting that to be the same here this afternoon.
Thanks, Christian.
And this man will be keen to avoid any traffic in qualifying, of course. In some ways, with these new tyres, you get one hot lap. Perhaps if you cool them down on the second lap, you can go again. But it really is very tight in qualifying at the moment. And interesting there, ready to hear Christian Horner talking about the kind of tyre that Red Bull are going to go for. He says, we'll give it a go on the hards, and then if we haven't got the pace, we'll go on the softs. Are they almost the only team that can be brave enough to go out in Q1 on the harder tyre and know they're still going to make it through to Q2?
Well, they've got such an advantage, and when you've got a great advantage, it allows you to take much more risk and actually plan for the future. If they can get through qualifying on the hard tyre, it puts them one step again ahead. It's a strategy that Christian clearly knows is to his advantage if he can manage to get through qualifying in that way.
Okay, well, it's time for the first part of qualifying. Are you expecting to see the same old six faces going out early on, the new teams, and then one fall guy, and if so, who could that be?
Well, you never know. I see Red Bull, and then the other sort of group of teams, they're all so close together, anything can happen here.
Okay, well, as you saw there, the world champion has made his way into the garage. Sebastian Vettel will be climbing into his car because in high definition, it's Martin Brundle and David Coulthard with Q1.